Have you ever had that feeling while you're in a dead sleep where you wake up and you suddenly feel like you're not alone? That something's in the room with you. Maybe it's right next to your bed, but try as you might, you cannot turn your head. You cannot bring yourself to look at it, both physically and mentally. It's one of the most terrifying experiences in the whole world. And you're not alone if you experience this. We're going to be discussing sleep paralysis in this episode of Spooky Stories in Grocknation. Also, another story we're going to dig into is the actual exorcism of the real Emily Rose, a young lady from Germany. We're going to look into that case that led to manslaughter charges to the priest and her parents. We will be digging into that as well here tonight in this haunted hospital. Welcome back, everyone, to Grocknation and Spooky Stories. I hope you guys are doing well, staying safe during these unsafe times. I, for one, have been away for a couple weeks for you guys. This isn't an RP video, so I can speak with you guys. Exciting things are happening in Grock's life. We just purchased a new home, and we're getting ready to start doing some demo and renos. That won't affect the content for a couple more months, but it definitely will put a hinder on our frequency. We are also approaching our 1-year anniversary in Grocknation. I will be making a non-ASMR video to look back on the year. Super happy to have everyone here with me. I know I have a lot of people always telling me, I can't believe you have more viewers, you should be bigger, I'm just happy you guys are here, honestly. People are enjoying my videos. I know that the Spooky Stories isn't the most popular. There's maybe like 100 or 200 of you that like this. But I like to try to mix things up so I don't get bored of doing these videos. I want to always keep things fresh in Grocknation. So with that said, let's get into this next video, this next series of spooky stories for all my spooky people out there. Alright, let's get into it. Alright, so I never ever included a sleep paralysis story in my original true haunting stories of my life. It's because I'm still not of the train of thought that it's anything demonic or outerworldly, but there are certain things about sleep paralysis that just defy logic and it defies explanation. My biggest, we should probably, before I get into my story, let's discuss what sleep paralysis is, or night terrors, as the medical term for it is sleep paralysis. Everyone else knows it as night terrors. What is this, Grockstar? You're asking yourself. And those of you that are here that have experienced this, by all means, share your stories down below. I'd love to hear them. Sleep paralysis is it's like a symptom. Doctors say that when you're in a very, very deep sleep, you wake up, you open your eyes, but your body's still in somewhat of a dream state. So you might manifest things that you see, and more often than not, because you can't move, you start to get frightened, and as a result, frightening images may appear for you. Is how the medical community defines night terrors or sleep paralysis. I've myself, and I know a lot of people, including my best friend Dave, has experienced the night terrors before. We're going to dig into why the unexplained part of why this is so spooky, because you're going, this isn't really scary, Grock. Well, let's dig in. We're going to dig into it, and it's going to be pretty fucking terrifying. But I'm going to tell you my story. My story with sleep paralysis. My stories, because it happens to me not very frequently. I want to say once, maybe twice a year, if that. And I find that it happens when darkness to the side of me, and I couldn't turn to look at it. I just couldn't turn to look at it, so I was very terrified. And I remember I was able to turn to my left. I was able to let myself turn to the left. I got the strength to do it, or I broke free of this paralysis. I turned to the left, and then I was too afraid to look back. For like a minute or two, I did. There was nothing in there, but that was like my biggest scare with sleep paralysis. But we're going to discuss right now what makes it so terrifying and what unexplained phenomena makes this unusually and dabbles in the paranormal. So you're asking yourself, Grockstar, what makes this so spooky? Well, or unexplained, and this is supposed to be terrifying. There are things with night terrors that are unexplainable in that there are 3 distinct figures that everyone sees. I'm not talking you and your friends, I'm talking globally. Night terrors go back to the ancient times. A lot of people in the paranormal world, in the demonologist community, do believe that night terrors and demons are somewhat intertwined, in that sometimes a demon will mask itself in a night terror, make you believe you're just having a sleep paralysis when in fact you are actually being visited by a demon. But as I said before, there are 3 distinct figures that people from North America, South America, Europe, Asia, Russia, India, they all see the same 3 people. They see this old hag, as you see in the picture here. They also see a hat man, a big figure, a tall, blackless figure, but he's wearing a big hat. They also see the shadow man, which is, I believe, what I'd seen during my spooky sleep paralysis story. What's really terrifying, you guys, about this particular situation is there are people that have this happen to them every single night. There are documentaries on it. If you guys want to see a really, really good documentary on this, it's called A Nightmare from 2015. I highly suggest looking into it. It really dabbles into the unexplainable of what this actually is. There was also a documentary when I first heard about night terrors. Actually understood what had happened to me. It was a Discovery Channel documentary, and it scared the living shit out of me because I had experienced that as well. So, yeah, there are 3 figures that everyone sees, and it just doesn't make sense. Like, it's one of those unexplainable things where everyone's like, how is it possible that myself will see a hat man in Canada, and some teenager over in Europe will have his very first sleep paralysis nightmare, and he'll see a hat man as well? It doesn't make sense. I was sitting in my control booth at work sometime last year, and I was talking with my friend Dave, and we were discussing these phenomena. I discussed it because I'd read an article on it recently, and I asked him, and he actually, without me telling him what I was talking about, he told me that when he was in his early 20s, he'd just gone out and he'd gone drinking. He was laying in his bed about to pass out, and when he was passing out, he woke up and he couldn't move. And he says at the end of his bed in a hallway, an old hag started to come around the corner and approach his bed, and he couldn't move, he couldn't scream, nothing. Eventually he was able to fight his way out of it, and she was gone. But again, I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, this is so weird. Even you had this situation with this old hag. Yeah, it just doesn't, there's no explanation for it. If everyone just seen dark figures and that was it, and it was just a dark figure, a set dark figure, you could say, okay, well, maybe this is something, medical, and maybe the doctors are on to something, but how on earth is it everyone sees the exact same 3 beings? In the paranormal world, the explanation is that they are visitors from, a demonic dimension, and it's just, they like to fuck with people. This picture here is a very famous painting depicting a demon sitting on a woman's chest. A lot of people, when they get these attacks, they say they can't breathe. It feels like it's sitting on their chest, and they can't breathe or scream or move. And it's very terrifying. I couldn't imagine anything more terrifying in my life. I said, it happens very rarely to me personally, and when it does happen, it's usually I just can't move, and then I'll fight my way out of it, and I roll over, I go back to sleep, or sometimes when I wake up, I just go right back to sleep. I try not to think about it, but there are some people that get absolutely attacked by these nightmares, these entities, whatever they are, and I do believe there's something more than what the medical community wants to say about them. But yeah, it's a very, very strange phenomena, and it's very terrifying, and I really hope it never ever happens to me. I don't know. There's no rhyme or reason why it happens to certain people. There's nothing they have really in common. Religion doesn't play a part in anything. The Discovery Channel documentary I remember watching, it was actually attacking an altar boy, and they actually had video footage of it pulling him off his bed. In a night vision camera, it actually pulls his foot and pulls him off the bed, and that can't be camera trickery. I don't know what it was. It's one of those weird things in life it's unexplainable, and it's absolutely, absolutely fucking terrifying. Like, genuinely, my heart goes out to people that have to deal with that. And like I said, no rhyme or reason. They don't have mental problems or anything. They're businessmen, and students, and all different walks of life. There's nothing really common there. So yeah, guys, if you guys have a story, by all means, let me know. I love to hear spooky stories, but yeah, this is unexplainable. So this really was like one of my first terrifying things I was intrigued in when I was a teenager, and it's only because it had happened to me the one time. Now that I'm older, it happens. It's so weird that you get so used to it. It happens so frequently, like I said, a couple times a year, that you just go, it's just a part of, I've never seen anything dark or demonic. Thankfully, like I said, I felt that roar presence once, and I don't know what that loud screaming could possibly be, but it's enough that by the time it hits its pitch, or it's at the highest it's gonna get, I usually do wake up. So yeah, it's one of those weird things, and it definitely is spooky. So again, guys, I'd love to hear your stories. If you have any sleep paralysis stories, for sure, let old Grock know. I do like to hear you guys' stories. But yeah, that's going to be it for night terrors or sleep paralysis. We're going to move on now to a curious case of an exorcism gone terribly wrong that actually was made into a movie entitled The Exorcism of Emily Rose. Great film if you guys haven't seen it. Let's dig into that. So the 2005 movie, The Exorcism of Emily Rose, is loosely based off of a real story of a German girl in the 60s called Anneliese Michel. Pretty much the exact same story as The Exorcism of Emily Rose. They tried to do an exorcism on her. She ended up dying. They got charged for, I can't remember what kind of manslaughter it is, but we're going to find out. We're going to go over this article on the whole thing. But they got charged because they said she died of malnourishment and neglect in her state. They thought that she had mental problems, but the priest and the parents begged to differ. All the signs show classic demonic possession, but that's not going to fly in a courtroom. I don't even think that would fly today, let alone in his 60s. So yeah, we're going to dig right into this, guys. It's a very spooky story. So I don't know. I think I'm going to try one of my blue effects for this. It's going to sound a bit differently. If it doesn't come off great, I think it'll be the last time I do it, but I'm really going to try to get a nice crisp soft sound for you guys while I read this out. So again, if we don't like it, we won't do it again. Alright, let's get into it. Alright, the hell with the blue effects. It sounds absolutely terrible trying to do it with ASMR. I'm sure there's ways to do it. I'll have to tweak it here and try to figure it out for future videos. But let's start this article, you guys. It's quite a long one, so hopefully you guys will sit back, lay back, and enjoy this. Again, I don't see how people sleep to this, but if it's background noise, that's awesome. So, though many may not know it, events of the 2005 film The Exorcism of Emily Rose were not entirely fictional, but rather based on the actual experiences of a German girl named Anneliese Michel. Anneliese Michel grew up a devout Catholic in Bavaria, West Germany in the 1960s, where she attended Mass twice a week. When Anneliese was 16, she suddenly blacked out at school and began walking around dazed. Though Anneliese did not remember the event, her friends and family said it was like in a trance-like state. A year later, Anneliese Michel experienced a similar occurrence where she woke up in a trance and wet her bed. Her body also went through a series of convulsions, causing her body to shake uncontrollably. But what happened next was even more disturbing. After the second time, Anneliese visited a neurologist who diagnosed her with temporal lobe epilepsy, a disorder that causes seizures, loss of memory, and experiencing visual and auditory hallucinations. Temporal lobe epilepsy can also cause Geschwinde syndrome, a disorder marked by hyper-religiosity. I didn't even know that was a word. After her diagnosis, Anneliese began taking medication for her epilepsy and enrolled in the University of Wurzburg in 1973. However, the drugs she was given failed to help her, and as the year progressed, her condition began to deteriorate. Though she was taking her medication, Anneliese began to believe that she was possessed by a demon, that she needed to find a solution outside of medicine. She began to see the devil, the face of the devil, wherever she went, and said she heard demons whispering in her ears. When she heard demons telling her she was damned and would rot in hell. While she was praying, she concluded that the devil must be possessing her. Anneliese sought out priests to help her with her demonic possession, but all the clergy she approached rejected her requests, saying that she should seek medical help and that they needed the permission of a bishop anyway. At this point, Anneliese's delusions had become extreme. Believing she was possessed, she ripped the clothes off her body, compulsively performed up to 400 squats a day, crawled under a table, and barked like a dog for 2 days. She also ate spiders and coal, bit the head off a dead bird, and licked her own urine from the floor. Finally, she and her mother found a priest, Ernst Alt, who believed in her possession. He stated that she didn't look like an epileptic in later court documents. Anneliese wrote to Alt, I am nothing. Everything about me is vanity. What should I do? I have to improve. You pray for me. And also once told him, I want to suffer for other people, but this is so cruel. Alt petitioned the local bishop, Bishop Joseph Stangl, who eventually approved the request and granted a local priest, Arnold Renz, permission to perform an exorcism, but ordered that it be carried out in total secrecy. Exorcisms have existed in various cultures and religions for millennia, but the practice became popular in Catholic Church in the 1500s with priests who would use the Latin phrase Vade retro Santana or Satana, go back Satan, to expel demons from their mortal hosts. The practice of Catholic exorcism was codified in the Ritual Romanon, a book of Christian practices assembled in the 16th century. By the 1960s, exorcisms were very rare among Catholics, but a rise in movies and books like The Exorcist in the early 70s caused a renewed interest in the practice. Over the next 10 months, following the bishop's approval of Anneliese's exorcism, Alt and Renz conducted 67 exorcisms, lasting up to 4 hours on the young woman. Through these sessions, Anneliese revealed that she believed she was possessed by 6 demons: Lucifer, Cain, Judas Iscariot, Adolf Hitler, Nero, and Fleischmann, a disgraced priest. All these spirits would jostle for power of Anneliese's body and would communicate from her mouth with a low growl. The demons argued with each other, with Hitler saying people are stupid as pigs. The think it's all over after death. It goes on. And Judas saying Hitler was nothing but a big mouth who had no real say in hell. Throughout these sessions, Annalise would frequently talk about dying to atone for the wayward youth of the day and the apostate priests of the modern church. She broke the bones and ripped the tendons in her knees from continually kneeling in prayer. Over these 10 months, Annalise was frequently restrained so the priests could conduct exorcism rites. She slowly stopped eating, and she eventually died of malnourishment and dehydration on July 1st, 1976. She was just 23 years old. After her death, Annalise's story became a national sensation in Germany. After her parents and 2 priests who conducted the exorcism were charged with negligent homicide. They came before the court and even used a recording of the exorcism to try to justify their actions. The 2 priests were found guilty of manslaughter resulting from negligence and were sentenced to 6 months in jail, which was later suspended, and 3 years probation. The parents were exempt from any punishment as they had suffered enough, a criteria for sentencing in German law. Decades after the trial, the famous horror movie The Exorcism of Emily Rose was released in 2005, loosely based on Annalise's story. The movie follows a lawyer who takes on a negligent homicide case involving a priest who allegedly performed a deadly exorcism on a young woman. Set in America in the modern day, the film was both praised and panned by critics for its depiction of the sensational court case that followed the death of Emily Rose. Although much of the movie focuses on courtroom drama and debate, there are plenty of scary flashbacks that depict the events leading up to Emily Rose's exorcism and her untimely death at age 19. Perhaps one of the most memorable scenes from the film is the flashback of Emily Rose screaming the name of all her demons to a priest. While possessed, she shouts out names such as Judas Cain, most chillingly Lucifer, the devil in the flesh. While reviews of the exorcism of Emily Rose are depicted or decidedly mixed, in film did pick up a couple awards, including an MTV Movie Award for Best Frightened Performance by Jennifer Carpenter, who played Emily Rose. Other than her inspiration for a horror film, Annalise became an icon for some Catholics who felt modern, secular interpretations of the Bible were distorting the ancient supernatural truth it contains. The surprising thing was that the people connected to Michelle were all completely convinced that she had been possessed. Remembers Franz Barthel, who reported on the trial for the regional daily paper at the Main Post. Buses, often from Holland, I think, still come to Annalise's grave. The grave is a gathering point for religious outsiders. They write notes of requests and thanks for her help and leave them on a grave. They pray, sing, and travel on. While she may be a source of inspiration for some religious people, the story of Annalise Michel is not one of spiritual triumphing over science, but of people who should have known better than allowing a mentally ill woman to die. It's a story of people projecting their beliefs, hopes, and faith onto a woman's delusions, and the price that was paid for those beliefs. Alright guys, and with that, that's going to conclude this edition of Spooky Stories. Let me know what you think about this Annalise Michel case down below in the comments. Did she really have mental problems, or was she actually possessed? Everything, all the outwardly signs point towards possession, in my personal opinion. I don't think that would stand in court today, let alone in the 60s for sure. But yeah, very sad situation nevertheless, especially when someone so young passes away, unfortunately. It's hard to say who was at fault. I personally believe they should have been monitoring her physical symptoms more than they were. Having someone dying of malnourishment and dehydration is absolutely unacceptable at any caretaker's level, including a priest during an exorcism. But you guys let me know down below, and I hope you guys enjoyed this edition of Spooky Stories. I'll talk to everyone later. Thanks for popping